Okay, good evening, everyone. It's just after 8 o'clock Friday night. We're about 12 hours out from this big winter storm impacting a lot of Middle Tennessee. So I thought I would hop on real fast just to give you an overview of what we're expecting and then take any questions that you may have as regards to what is headed our way. So we'll start with the radar. It's already moving through lots of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And the low pressure in question is down here in the boot heel of Texas. So this is going to swing our direction and make a pretty impressive trip north through Tennessee eventually, which will bring us the winter weather. And now a bit of a question as to how much warm air moves in, and that could help keep ice accumulations down. And that is what we want at this point. So we're going to keep a real close eye on that. As I mentioned, it's affecting a lot of the country. Look at how many states are involved, stretching from New Mexico all the way up to Maine. Everywhere in pink, that is a winter storm warning. The ice storm warning has expanded now, stretching from Texas through Tennessee over into Georgia and the Carolinas. And in blue, that's the winter storm watch that continues just because the storm is still a few days out for folks up in Maine. Let's start with the impact level. This is a pretty impressive product that the National Weather Service and NOAA have come out with. This gives you a broad overview of what kind of impacts we're looking at. And I will tell you, I cannot recall. This is maybe more than a couple years old, but not really old, fairly new. And I cannot recall an impact level this high. Case in point, the extreme level, the highest you can get is borderline in Middle Tennessee, stretching more into, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see, stretching more into Mississippi. This is all mainly due to ice accumulation. But that major category stretches up into Nashville, Metro Nashville area. So we are expecting moderate to major impacts with this, mainly, again, due to the ice potential that we have going on. Now, before we get to the ice, we are looking at some light snow. So there will be some accumulating snow tomorrow morning. There's going to be a brief window of time to enjoy the snow. And I think that's going to be between about 6 a.m. and noon tomorrow, maybe a hair after that. It's really just going to be when that transition begins over to a sleet freezing rain. But this is what we're looking at as far as snow accumulation goes, about 2 to 4 inches in Nashville, Murfreesboro, on over to Cookeville and Crossville. The closer you are to that next color, so for Nashville, for example, a little closer to that 4 to 6 range. So I expect about 3 to 4 in Nashville. For places like Murfreesboro and Columbia, probably more 2 to 3 inches. 4 to 6 possible in Clarksville. And then as you get more into southern Kentucky, that is where the heavy snow has moved. It's more into central southern Kentucky. And that's going to be where a lot of folks are enjoying all of the heavy snowfall. They may be dealing with a little bit of sleet and or freezing rain as well. This has really just been a grab bag type of system moving through, and we're getting a little bit of everything. But it is the ice that we do continue to be quite concerned with at this point. Again, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch of ice is forecast in our southwestern counties, Decatur County, Lincoln, or I should say Wayne County, Perry and Lewis counties, and stretching even into portions of Hickman County, southern Hickman County there. Major impacts still for those stretching from Dixon, I-40 corridor, down to Columbia and on up into Metro Nashville. A 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice is not something to mess with. That can cause scattered to widespread power outages. And just to give you a perspective here, this is an impact graphic for ice accumulation. So the majority of Middle Tennessee is looking at anywhere between 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of ice. And then in that major to extreme impact area is where I think more than a 1/2 inch of ice is expected. It's possible that Nashville could end up with more than a 1/2 inch of ice. It's just going to depend on how warm we can get Saturday or Sunday morning. Will we see a transition to a cold rain, or will we stay right at or just below freezing where it stays as freezing rain and continues to accumulate. So there's still questions as to when we transition to what and how much, and then how long the duration of that warmer air sticks with us. So we'll walk through future track here in a second, but half inch or more widespread tree and power line damage, roads become impassable, very dangerous. And even a quarter to a half inch of ice is very disruptive. It can cause scattered power outages, of course, icy roads, tricky travel, tree limbs begin to sag on themselves or even break if they're older trees. So ice is just not something we want to mess with for sure. Patricia asking, how bad do you think the ice is going to be for Williamson County? I'll go back to our ice map here. Williamson County in that half inch to 3/4 of an inch. I think Williamson County should probably average out to maybe about a half inch, maybe slightly less, maybe, but a little concern for those in Williamson County, Franklin, Leapers Fork, Fairview. This is going to be a problem, I think. Half inch, again, can cause quite a bit of damage and power outages. Tammy asking, what time is it going to pass through? I've got a good timing map for you coming up. And Mara asking about Hermitage, and Stacy asking about Lafayette. So yes, everybody is going to see something with this storm. The highest impact will be for Nashville and points south and west. For Lafayette, I'm thinking maybe a quarter of an inch, upwards to a half inch. That's on the high side. A quarter of an inch of ice still creating tricky travel. And you'll see those tree limbs starting to bend a little bit. Could cause a few power outages. And then as far as snowfall, perhaps a little bit more snow, maybe 4 inches, 5 inches of snow possible. And again, it's just going to depend on how long we have that snow around before it begins to transition. Let me go to this timing graphic here. I made this because I'm a visual person and I need to see things on a picture. So I hope this helps you. The timeline is at the bottom. So we're going to go from Saturday morning at 6 a.m. all the way through Sunday evening. That's going to be about the duration of the event. There will be times of more moderate to heavy precipitation, as you can see here, and other times where it's more light or intermittent. But the duration of the event alone is pretty impressive. So early Saturday morning between 6 a.m. and noon, I think that's going to be our snow accumulation. That's our main accumulating time for snow. After that, I would say after lunchtime tomorrow is when we're expecting that transition from snow, sleet, to more sleet, freezing rain. And that's the pink that you see here. And notice that that pink hangs around for a lot of Saturday. Now, late Saturday night into early Sunday, as we get more into early Sunday morning, there are hints, especially east of I-65, which we'll see on future track. There are hints that temperatures may warm just enough for us to transition over to a cold rain, which would be great. It would cut down on ice accumulation, kind of slow the process of the impact that we're seeing. That will last for the afternoon. And then as we get into Sunday evening, another Arctic blast is expected to arrive. So after about 2-3 o'clock, we'll start to see again more freezing rain, sleet, and then a little bit of light snow possible as we head into early Monday on the backside. And that could bring another very little bit of accumulating snow, maybe a half inch up to 1 inch of snow. So that's kind of the overall timing on what we're expecting when. Let me go here. So everyone asking questions about your town, this at least is the map for everybody. So you can kind of watch and follow along here. So we get into 6 o'clock in the morning, and I will say I'm reading this with fresh eyes because this is the latest model run has just come in. Yeah, so this will be a fresh, even for me to see. So here's about 6-7 o'clock in the morning, snow begins. We're expecting snow first, and then it'll start to mix in with some sleet and or then freezing rain later in the afternoon. This is about 8 o'clock. I expect snow starting to fall. Look how cold temperatures are tomorrow morning. We should be in the low 20s, if not in the teens. So a very cold start to the day. Snow should accumulate fairly quickly. As we get more into the morning, here's 9 to 10 o'clock, still looking at snow at this point. So again, this is going to be the biggest time or the best time for snow to accumulate. It's also going to be your sledding window. So if you want to get out, play in the snow, do it between 6 a.m. and about noon. because that is going to be the best time for snow, just snow. Once we get into the afternoon, it'll start to be a little more crunchy, I've been calling it, just because ice will start to play in and it'll just harden over. Sleet will start to accumulate, and that's not as fun and probably doesn't feel good either if it's accumulating sleet. Here's noon, and I want you to note too, the temperatures are going to gradually rise during the day. So here's 1 o'clock, still looking at some snow, probably mixing in with sleet around the I-40 corridor, and some sleet and or freezing rain for folks south, Columbia, Tullahoma, Lewisburg, McMinnville. That's Saturday afternoon. Now we head into Saturday midday to early evening. Look at all that pink. That's freezing rain. We really think this is going to be freezing rain, could mix in with a little bit of sleet. And as we get more into the evening, notice the model is really trying hard to determine whether or not we're going to see freezing rain here or it's rain. With temperatures right around freezing or just at freezing, it's still freezing rain. But once we climb above freezing, then, and of course, it turns into just a cold rain. So still looking at accumulating ice at this point. Here's 9 p.m. Saturday night. And notice as we head deeper into the evening here, the precipitation starts to lighten up. That will happen off and on, but it will continue as we head into the overnight hours. So here we go into 4, 5 o'clock. Now notice temperatures south of 40. McMinnville at 34, Tullahoma at 33, Crossville at 33. That would be a cold rain. That would be very good news. It would cut down on ice accumulation. So we're not expecting quite as much impact this time around for places like Cookeville, Crossville, McMinnville, Tullahoma. Still impact, but more minor to moderate impact. The major moderate to major impacts will be for those like Clarksville, Nashville, Dixon, Linden, Columbia, places that are going to hover around that freezing mark as we go through Sunday. So here's Sunday morning. And notice most of the snow at this point has pushed out of our viewing area. Now we're just dealing with sleet and or some freezing rain. So hovering right around freezing here, maybe waffling a little bit midday, more intense precipitation starting to fill in by Sunday mid-morning. This is good to see here. So again, this would indicate that for folks in Tullahoma, McMinnville, even Murfreesboro, wobbling out of that freezing zone above freezing will help mitigate our ice accumulation, mainly along and east of I-65. I think that's going to be our dividing line. Nashville, we may waffle back and forth between freezing just above. Here's 12 noon. And the bulk of precipitation starting to clear out. This is also, again, see all the snow up here in Hopkinsville, even a mix, probably some sleet too. That's why we're looking at higher snow totals to the north. But you can see just after 1 o'clock here, I'm going to move this, just edit a little bit here. I want this at noon, not 1. Okay, so there's lunchtime. Watch what happens as we head into the later part of Sunday. We're clearing out, but the temperatures are starting to fall. Put a key point there. Oh, wait, that's the wrong computer. Okay. So the Arctic air will arrive as the majority of moisture begins to exit. Lo and behold, as we get into Sunday night, early Monday morning, I do think there's going to be a little wraparound moisture here. So we're going to bookend with a nice little bow this winter storm with some minor additional snowfall. I think this would probably result in maybe a half-inch accumulation, maybe an inch if you find a moderate pocket. But this takes you through late Sunday evening here into early Monday morning, and look at those temperatures plummet. So by the time this whole system is clearing out of here, I'll zoom out so you can see. We are looking at temperatures around 10 here in Nashville early Monday morning. Here's just a wide scale so you can see how big the storm is really, and maybe even some thunderstorms down in Alabama. This is crazy. And then heavy snow for folks up in the Northeast as well, along with some pretty significant ice accumulation in the Carolinas, possibly in northern Georgia and throughout DC. Just a major winter storm that is affecting millions and millions of people. So that is kind of a timeline of what we're expecting. Whatever we find, it is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So our impact days will be Saturday and Sunday, meaning that's the duration of the event. Monday and Tuesday, we are going to be looking at lingering impacts. Temperatures are going to be below zero on Tuesday morning, and that is going to not help the melting process. In fact, it's looking like temperatures should stay below freezing or right around freezing for much of next week. So that's really not good. So with that in mind, let me drag this over here, see if this works, make sure that you can see what I'm seeing. Wow, that's a lot. Maybe I'll drag that back. I was going to see if I could show you. Oh, you know what? Maybe, let me think here. Boy, I don't know. I'll just tell you to go to our website. I don't want to keep you. But we have a lot of school closures that are already coming in and delays for next week. So schools are already deciding to cancel class. I've seen some that are saying they're going to do virtual learning. So make sure that you head to our website, fox17.com, and check that out, because there are a ton of schools that are already deciding to close or cancel school for at least the beginning of next week. Let me go through some of these comments here. Yes, Tammy, that's a good point. Anything that is wet is going to freeze for Sunday night into Monday. So even though things will be clearing out of here, it's going to freeze hard. And again, with temperatures, let me go to the 7-day forecast here just to show you. Temperatures aren't going to get much higher than freezing. And so we're not going to get a good day of really good melting. The sun will help a little bit, but you notice too, these lows are not just 28, 29 degrees. These are some seriously cold lows. So it is going to be a hard freeze. And then we'll climb close to freezing Tuesday, Wednesday. Then another blast of Arctic air is expected to arrive Thursday and Friday of next week. So we really don't have a lot of time to melt away whatever we're going to see here moving in the next couple of days. Let's see. Tiffany asking about, what about Lebanon? Yeah, kind of on the line. I think Lebanon's got a chance for a little bit of good snow, maybe 4 inches of snow here. That's looking fairly likely. 3-4 inches maybe. And then as far as ice accumulation goes, I would say maybe a quarter of an inch of ice. I think a half inch would be on the high side, but it is possible. So still in the thick of it. Lebanon definitely in that moderate impact. So that is, again, for Lebanon. Let's see. What else? That's a question here. Just scrolling through here. Jordan asking about White House. Same thing. I would say maybe a little bit more snow than ice. White House is probably looking at 4 to 6 inches of snowfall in the morning. And then ice accumulation, most likely around a quarter of an inch possible. Maybe not quite that much. But still, again, moderate impact. That is, it's just going to be a couple days to stay inside, away from being out in a fan. This is a good question here. Gwen asking, what causes it to change from snow to sleet to freezing rain? Upper air or upper atmosphere conditions. Yes, you are exactly right. So when we talk about snow, sleet, freezing rain, there's a lot that goes on. It's not just what's happening here at the surface, but what's happening upstairs, the way I like to call it here. Let's see if I can find you. I have a good explainer on, here we go, precipitation, winter types of precipitation. And Brett Luna actually did a really good job explaining this as well yesterday. You can check that on our Facebook page. So here are the types of winter weather. Of course, with rain, it's still cold, way up high, snowflakes falling, and then it warms up above freezing, and we stay above freezing all the way down to the surface. So that's our good old-fashioned rain. Then we get to freezing rain, where upstairs it's snowing. There's a warm layer of air, a shallow warm layer of air between us at the surface and well upstairs where it is snowing. That warm air will melt the snowdrops or the snowflakes. And that warm air is just thick enough where as those wet droplets fall to the surface, they are still liquid. So it's just before they get to the surface. Temperatures just above us are above freezing. When we get to the surface, we're below freezing. and those liquid water droplets will fall and they will freeze on contact because they're super cooled. So that's where freezing rain comes from. It's rain, but we are below freezing at the surface, and they are super cooled water droplets, and so therefore they fall and then freeze right on contact. Sleet is slightly different in that warm layer of air is more shallow, so the liquid droplets above us have time to refreeze into at least ice pellets before they hit the ground. And so that's the type of stuff that bounces off the ground. But in these kinds of situations too, I think the precipitation could be heavy enough where we could get accumulating sleet. So it's so much ice that is starting to build up. You can shovel it away. It's not like a sheet of ice at first, but if it's not dealt with, and then we get into the overnight when we drop to 11 degrees, it's going to harden and create a sheet of ice. So if you find accumulating sleet tomorrow, do your best to get it taken care of and treat it before we get into the overnight hours, because you can see it end up becoming a sheet of ice, and then it's much more of a problem to get rid of. And then, of course, snow is when it's cold all the way through the atmosphere and we get our beautiful snowflakes. So that's a good question. Those are the types of winter weather. And this time around, we're going to get it all. So sometimes we only see one, sometimes we have a couple, sometimes it's just snow. And this time it's definitely going to be all the things above. So we just want to make sure that you guys are prepared and ready to go. Again, I'm going to leave you with this graphic here. This is our winter weather impact level. So we're looking at major impacts for portions of Metro Nashville up into southern Kentucky, mainly due to snow, the amount of snow. The major impacts in Nashville, down the I-40 corridor through Dixon and into West Tennessee and into our southwestern counties are going to be due to the potential for ice accumulation over a ½ inch. And then this extreme categories where it is looking more likely that we could see just outside of Middle Tennessee, parts of West Tennessee and into Mississippi, over an inch of ice accumulation. And that's going to be pretty difficult to see if that pans out. So we are really hoping for that little warm nose to nudge in more into Middle Tennessee. So, we can cut down a little bit on this ice accumulation. But we're at that point now where forecasting is done. These are my totals here. We're looking again at snow in the morning. Highest snow amounts are going to be in northern parts of Tennessee, and then more into southern Kentucky. And then south towards Alabama, less snow. Ice accumulation, once again, will be highest south and west of Nashville. But I think even Nashville has at least the potential, the possibility of a pretty rough go of it this weekend. So I would highly suggest that you're prepared for power outages for tomorrow, more so tomorrow night into Sunday. That's going to be when we have most of our ice accumulation. This is one model, in-house model here, and shows you again that accumulating ice doesn't start to happen until we get into Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. So this is just one model run here. And this is looking like about a ½ inch in Nashville, 3/4 of an inch in Dixon, Linden, with more possible again, south and west of Nashville. So this really would be troublesome if it pans out. So we want to just make sure that you've got all the things you need to be prepared for the weekend and just, of course, not go anywhere. You guys know the drill. There against the winter storm stretching from Texas on up to Maine. Incredible. So that's what I got for you tonight. I hope I answered a few questions for you. Be sure to tune in tonight at 9. We'll have even more model data coming in, and we can discuss more about some of the impacts and things you can do to prepare. But we've seen these before. Unfortunately, some of them pan out and do quite a bit of damage, and they can take days, if not weeks, to recover trees, power lines, and that kind of thing. Hopefully, that's not going to be the case. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit of that cold rain in for Sunday, and it'll cut down on our impacts. But it is definitely going to be a rough go of it this weekend across the Mid-South. That is for sure. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I hope you guys are staying warm. That's the other story that we really haven't been able to talk too much about, is just how cold it's going to be this weekend. So that kind of puts us on a little more high alert for those power outages because we're looking at temperatures Tuesday morning below zero in many places, and Monday not getting out of the teens, most likely for afternoon highs. So again, just make sure that you got everything you need and you stay up to date with the latest. Be ready for last minute surprises. These kinds of systems will always throw us a surprise, usually at the beginning, during, or even the end of the system. So we'll be here all weekend. We've got special newscasts set up for Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and again, Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon, in addition to our 9 o'clock newscasts Saturday and Sunday night. So we'll be here all weekend watching how this thing unfolds. And hopefully you guys get a little bit of fun time in the morning, go sledding or make snowman. We'd love to see your pictures. Just go to our website and send them in through Chime In on our website, because I'm sure there'll be some fun times, at least in the morning before it turns dicey in the afternoon. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you tonight on TV.